Hey, hi. Linda K. Gifford here. So, who else is watching the Ketanji Jackson? I would call it a nomination, but it's hearing, but it seems like more of a trial. Made me think of some stuff, though. I'm a CSA survivor and coach and author of the book Self-Talk, My Continuing Efforts to Survive Childhood Sexual Assault. That's coming out soon. And I read it last night, but I put 2 3-minute clips out of the 56-minute version, which is on YouTube and on Facebook, pages by the same name, Linda K. Survived. TikTok muted it. So I would encourage you, because for the first time ever in my life, I've never done a poetry reading or anything like that. I did, except for once in high school, I did one speech meet and I won big time, but that's a whole nother story. I read out of my book, Forgiveness is Overrated, a chapter of my book, and you can read it yourself if you, trigger warning, big time. This is my book about, it ties into my past. I offset scenes here and there with what happened to me, but mostly it's an observation of the way being a childhood sexual assault survivor has made me feel. It's made me feel in this world. And so anyway, I've been talking at you all this time, and looked at some analytics and realized that some people are actually like there. I'm used to doing more like, just live stream talking to you. I never really thought about talking with you on here. I do that through Messenger and on the phone and Zoom and such. But I want to open it up to actually having a conversation. So this time, rather than just talk, I thought I'd kind of see who's jumping in here and say hi. Maybe learn something about you guys. So something that came up in the hearings just now with Ketanji Jackson, that as a CSA survivor who is hell-bent on changing the language of society to stop putting us in the positions that we get assaulted, and don't call it abuse, because when you're sexually assaulted, you're assaulted. And I get really tired of people saying childhood sexual abuse. It's like, I was raped. I was sodomized. I was forced to do oral acts before that for years. I mean, it's like, yeah, that's not abuse. So when you use light words, you are lessening the effect that they have on other people. And so what really came up to me watching them go after Ketanji Jackson yesterday, and she had a wonderful rebuttal today here. But some of these senators saying that she's light on sex offenders. And she corrected that today by saying, no, the guidelines on sex offenders, on how you can sentence them, are what judges have to go by. And those are set by our representatives. Those are set by Congress. So within that, something I just learned today, and I wrote it down here, she said that she has to sentence with something greater. They say, the guidelines say to go great with a sex offender, a convicted sex offender, greater but than the minimum, but not more than is necessary for the purposes of punishment. So that's what I would want to talk about, is not more than what is necessary for the purposes of punishment. Now, maybe if you've never been raped, you won't understand this, but I still think you should, because I think you probably have a mother or a sister or a daughter. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody's got a mother, at least, whether you like her or not. Rape is such a serious assault on a person, and I consider it a more serious assault than someone cutting my head off with a knife. It is a death blow to the heart, the emotions, to your sense of peace, trust. It is a lifelong, I will survive every day for the rest of my life. I'm never going to be okay. That being said, I have a wonderful life, and I'm within the framework of what has happened to me as a trauma survivor, I am exceptionally okay. And I think I'm going to touch on what I said yesterday and then get more into this greater, but not more than is necessary for the purposes of punishment, because I believe in the death sentence for rapists. I think when you violate someone on that level, that you should be gone out of the gene pool. You know, if it's my child and my say, it's going to be pliers and a blowtorch too. And I was told yesterday that makes me hateful. This person said they wouldn't want to hire me as a coach. It's like, well, good thing I'm free. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a licensed therapist, but I've done a lot of therapy, and I do run how I feel by my own therapist, whom I see an hour a week as much as possible, and probably will always, because even coaches need coaches, and surviving is a process of learning, but it's also a process of making change in the world, right? So I want you to be someone who goes out and makes change in the world. Please help me, because that is how I sleep at night. Also with a knife and a bat. For real. I have a knife. Want to see? Here's my Shendu. I need to plug my phone in anyway. Oh, and I got a boot today. I broke my foot. I'm in my upstairs bedroom because, see, here's my broken foot. I don't know if I can flip my camera. And I got the new boot today because my foot is more broken on the x-ray today, the orthopedist said. Hi, Dr. Shodell. Than it was when it was broken initially. So, can you flip this midstream? I guess not, huh? All right. Well, I'm going to turn around and trust that you can see. I keep this by my bed. I'm a CSA survivor. I have had, that's a Celtic Shendu, and keep it traditionally in our socks. Everyone keeps a Shendu in their sock. In fact, I gave that one to my son when he won his first competition when he was about 7 or 8. Because that qualified him to carry a dagger. But I always have had a knife. Ever since I was a teenager, I've had a knife in the bed where I can reach it, where on my back I can reach it and kill you. Just saying. That's the kind of hypervigilance that I'm not over. I'm not going to be over it. Still looking for that cord. What the heck happens? Well, we'll see how long I can go before I run out of power. I bet my son stole it. Ah, there it is. Oh, good. All right. It's hard to get around in this boot, but luckily I prefer my little upstairs bedroom office. See my blanket? My sister made that for me. My sister Donna made that for me. I also have a sister Lori, and I think we're estranged. At least I can't seem to get a hold of her. And I am writing a book about her first husband, but she doesn't like him either. And the truth is the truth, and how I was affected is how I was affected. And I happen to be a writer, and this is how it all came out. And if I can do some good in the world, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. So, they're saying Ketanji Jackson was light on sex offenders. She's come back today with, I have gave them multi-decade sentences to the maximum that I could within the framing guidelines set by Congress. And so what I will argue with you is that, or hopefully agree with you, is that these laws need to be changed. The thing that started my whole book, the thing that started my live streams was I had a blackout, which I just completely don't remember, except waking up and I was bruised and battered and my eyes were swollen from crying and tears sealing me shut. And I called my then, not life partner. I was settling big time in a relationship that was horrible emotionally. And I just was dead emotionally. So I didn't care. It was a rent check, you know. And anyway, so I asked him if something had happened, and he said I tried to kill him. And then I had one memory flash of my arms coming down on him and then going for his throat. And that's, to this day, all I can remember of the 2 hours that evidently I cried on the patio before I came in and beat up my closet door, my dresser, the sink, by the bathroom in my bedroom, and then him. So I, needless to say, asked him to leave my life, and we've never spoken again. Never. I was just like, it wasn't a fight. It was a, this isn't healthy. I have to become healthy. So see, I'm telling you about a time I made a decision to become healthy. This is, I think, live stream number 5. And I've told you about all these other things, and I've told you tips and whatever and how to be healthy, but I haven't given you a whole lot of the how I got there, because how I got there was by not being healthy. And as Chris from my hometown accused me of that I was crazy, I'm like, I reiterate that being groomed and forced into oral sex and raped, gang raped, drugged, and assaulted for years does not lend itself to great mental health. But a person can, if they want to, change, if they recognize it. So the first step is recognizing it within yourself, recognizing that you need to change. And a lot of people are just kind of in the middle. They're kind of stuck here. I talk about this a lot. There's every time I'm on here, I'll mention this. There's 3 kinds of CSA survivors amongst all the other types. There's the always stuck in the past, always angry about the past. You know, they may be the nicest person in the world and the hardest worker and educated and whatever. Not saying this is any kind of a person of any kind of certain social class or caste or whatever. I'm saying on an emotional level, they will not progress. They feel ruined and hurt forever, and they dwell on that. And in therapy, they continue to dwell on that and not try to be forward looking. These are the people that tend to either tell everybody but never do the therapy for change, or else they totally keep it to themselves and just hurt forever and will not tell, will not, even to themselves. And what I mean by tell yourself is, like me, I didn't walk out of the experience saying, I survived childhood sexual assault. I came out of the experience feeling like a low-life scum participant in a disgusting relationship, and that God hated me, that nobody would ever love me. I had never, ever chosen to give my body or explore sexual feelings. That was all done to me and coerced out of me. So that wasn't even a thing. I didn't even know it was a thing. So I didn't know how sick I was. And I approached relationships without honesty. I did not tell my husbands getting into our marriages that I had such an extensive history of violation. And I didn't understand then the emotional effects of it. And now I do. So, to quote another, we'll call him fan, I'm like the blind leading the blind. It's like, well, unless you're like literally on a cliff, who better than the blind to teach the blind, right? Especially the blind who've learned how to navigate the cliff without sight. So, welcome, fellow blind. It's really, really a good world. And being a CSA survivor, I mean, there's so many survivors of so many different things, from, physical abuse to food insufficiency to just emotional trauma to, watching somebody else's suffering. I have a friend who's pretty messed up from seeing her brother be beat as a child. Not her, but her brother. And even things that she participated in. And it messed her up, she's not healthy. And so there's so many different ways to be messed up, is what I'm saying, that don't feel bad, that you have your cross to bear. As I've said in the past, and I will always say again, everyone's got their cross to bear, and we can't compare crosses. Because you don't know how much you can bear till you bear more. And just because someone seems to be doing something like for me, I'm going to give you an example. A friend was telling me the Gilmore Girls, a male friend, telling me the Gilmore Girls was a really good TV show. And I was like, not even interested, never seen it, don't want to see it. And he's like, surprised, I guess. And for me, it's like, I never lived that life of the kind of problems that they have seem like nothing to me. So the little snippets I saw here and there seemed like adolescent and teenage girls doing like, worried about boyfriend shit and best friend shit. And I never had any of that. I was just trying to get straight A's and not get raped, I was just didn't want to give blowjobs today. I don't want to have to give a blowjob just because I'm babysitting. So those kind of, my cross to me seems bigger. And that is wrong of me, if I really believed that. So even though I'm annoyed and I'm really still haven't watched, I'm not really interested in those kind of dramas because I really can't associate with it. I missed that whole part of my adolescence, teen years. And I resent very much that I never, will never know what it's like to choose that first, and hopefully for me, I wanted it to be forever. I always did. I still feel that way. I still feel guilty, and not in a religious sense, but in I respect myself sense. I only want to give my body to somebody that I am intrinsically bound with. So I'm not a sports sexer at all. And, I went through a period right after my abuse of dissociation and being involved in, some things I wish I hadn't been. I think we can all probably attest to something like that. But for the most part, I'm just not a person who is ever going to be interested in being promiscuous. I want to be loved and respected, but I didn't get all that. I knew that much, but I went about it the whole wrong way. And that's something else I learned that led to my SPADES program. It's not a program, my SPADES tips, 6 tips. 6 things I do all day, every day that I realized I do subconsciously because I've trained myself over time. And how about tell you guys so you can jumpstart the process, I figured, So, that's why I'm really disappointed in our courts and our justice systems. And when a person calls me seething with anger, they're right and they're wrong. Because the person yesterday, I wouldn't have you coach me because you haven't let go of your anger and you haven't learned forgiveness. And it's like, so I talked a lot about that yesterday. I'm going to do it again. I don't, in any way want you to think you have to be forgiving, that you have to forgive your, I'm not going to say abuser, assailant. You do not have to forgive your sexual assailant. And why would you? You'd be crazy to forgive your sexual assailant. I would not ever forgive. And that doesn't eat me up inside. That doesn't hurt me. And it's not going to put me in hell. And it's not going to keep me out of heaven. And it's not going to make me not sleep at night. Okay? What was done to me is unforgivable. I was raped and sodomized at 14 years old on the same night by a friend from out of town of my ex-brother-in-law's. Up to then, he had been using me for oral sex. And at that point, when someone else got to me, that angered him so much that then he never left me alone. And, and they gave me alcohol and drugs and no, I'm not going to forgive, and I don't need to. And if I did, I'd be crazy, and I will never tell anyone that. Those people are coming to you from like a religious bent. And the other thing is they say, and this person said to me about the hate part of it, you have to be over any feelings of hate. And it's like, well, if we all waited till we totally forgave whoever violated us, assaulted us, sexually assaulted and violated us. If we waited to forgive them, and also, or both, waited until and worked on getting over the anger, worked on forgiveness, we'd never get out of those stages, because you don't need to have forgiveness, and if you do, then you're a fucking idiot, pardon my language. Because we have to stop these people. We have to stop them. And that's why I'm being open and honest. And that's why I'm naming who he is, not by actual name, but it's not hard to do the math to my first ex-brother-in-law of my oldest sister, right? So, yeah, I'm putting it right out there, because to me, vengeance is a good thing. It's not even vengeance. It's you destroyed decades of my ability to even know what was wrong with me, to have sexual intimacy and joy, to choose it. You know, after being violated, sex becomes a whole different animal. And I've only recently learned in the relationship, my forever relationship I'm in now, I have learned for the first time, and nearly experienced what it must be like to choose that, to like be young and choose that, to choose a sexual, to choose, you know, to get closer and closer to someone until you both merge physically, but you both have mutual respect and love for each other. That's what was supposed to happen for me when I was young, and not supposed to in anybody else's mind. My parents weren't like all about no sex before marriage or anything. Not that they were for it either. We just didn't talk about that kind of stuff. It was like, be a decent person was what my family was about. So it's about how I feel about myself, is that I wanted, after what had happened to me as a child, I wanted to give myself to that person and that to be forever. But I also never even considered being honest, telling about what happened to me, and having them be able to share in that knowledge, so that the relationship maybe could work, or we'd learn right away, this is too much for me. Because it is too much for a lot of people, and that's okay. It takes a special kind of person to be the partner to a CSA survivor. And I don't mean special in a bad way or a weird way. I mean the best of people, humans. And I am gender free. I don't like using gender terms. Anyone can be a sexual offender. Anybody can be sexually violated. All genders welcome in my coaching and my world. And I don't even think twice about it. I think it's beautiful that anybody wears what they want to, does what they want to, and I could care less what's in your pants. So let's just get that straight right away. Gender differences are as natural and normal as the day is long, and it's about time people realize that. And it's about time we change the language of society across the board. So back to the top of this, because I'm still watching the news with the sound off in the background here. Ketanji Jackson, in giving out her sex offender sentences and sentencing them, was bound by the laws set by Congress, I repeat, that say that the sentence should be greater than the minimum, but not more than is necessary for the purposes of punishment. So I ask again, what is necessary for the purposes of punishment to someone who collects child porn? They differentiate between people producing child porn and people who just collect it. And Judge Ketanji Jackson said today, and I think it's very important to reiterate and point out and agree, that drawing that line is irrelevant and dangerous, because the people who are just looking, as they say, who get lighter sentences theoretically and traditionally, the just lookers are why the producers produce. So we start splitting hairs about what is an acceptable level of child porn. The other big one that she talked about today is that there's this archaic, because of the fact that you can on social media download so much porn now, there's this archaic, they say, law that they decide your sentencing is based on how much material, because in the past you had to have physical material mailed to you when these laws were set. So they figured if you had more stuff mailed to you and you went to that kind of trouble, you were a worse offender and more dangerous. And that makes no sense at all today when anybody can access huge amounts of child porn at the click of a mouse. But that being said, I don't see the freaking point. Why it matters? Why any amount of child porn? If you've collected one piece of child porn versus 1,000 pieces of child porn, I see you exactly the same. I see you as an offender. And if you have once raped somebody, you should get the death sentence. You should get the death penalty. And I'm not for the death penalty and everything. But these people need removed from the gene pool. And I don't think that makes me hardcore. I think that makes me a survivor of sexual assault. And when someone sticks their fucking penis inside your body and forces you to do things against your will, then you can have a vote and a say with me on this. But I don't think that makes me an angry person either. I'm just doing the math that heinous crimes deserve heinous punishment. And the fact that even other women are willing to come on here and tell me that I'm out of line for wishing dead rapists, that tells me that there's a problem with society. Not with me. There's a problem with not just our justice system, but our justice system, which is based on people voting for shit, is set up by a society that accepts this. And we do it on every level. And it starts with the language. It starts with little girl. And I literally left my first husband, who was a wonderful man and still is for the most part. But he called me little girl. And little girl, to me, represented the person I met in therapy when I first discovered one of the two alternate personalities, not personalities, because I don't have people to take over, but two places I go mentally to take it away from my main mind. When I was being assaulted, that was little girl. And I met her in therapy, after the point I was married and divorced from my first husband. But I knew I was deeply disturbed, and I didn't realize until that therapy 20 years ago that was why. Because he called me little girl and thought that was sexy. You know, hey, little girl, you know. He gave me I finally left him because he gave me this lace, some people would say really pretty lace teddy. I wanted me to wear it and then have sex, and he's like, I felt like, so I didn't say anything. I was like, so you want me to be a prostitute? So I need to dress in this kind of stuff, and you call me little girl at the same time? And I was so disgusted that I allowed him to essentially rape me and he thought he was making love to me, his wife, and I never told him that I was being raped in that moment in my own mind. And I left, and I never did tell him why. And I apologized to him this past December for that. I told him why finally. But the language is gross. Calling someone daddy that you sleep with is gross. And I've had other conversations with friends, female friends, who are like, it's just the way it is, Linda. You need to get over that. That's like, you're taking it differently, Linda. You're taking it differently than we mean it. And I'm like, no. You're meaning it differently than you're saying it. You're coming across, you're putting out there something different than what you believe. But it's so ingrained in you that just like when I didn't know I had sexual issues and I didn't know the extent of my dissociation, back when I didn't know those things existed, I couldn't work on them. So we need to educate and advocate for society and everyone around us to change their language. And you know, that's a monumental task. We can't just get people to just freaking do that on the grand scale all at once. And I've been told that I'm pipe dreaming all the time. I'm told I'm pipe dreaming. My business has been online for 5 years, and I was pipe dreaming from the start of that too. And it's like, you know what? It's never over as long as you just keep pushing. I've been pushing that boulder uphill for 5 years now, and the store is right now closed, being revamped, and I'm adding my son onto the front end. Feelgoodfairtrade.com, but don't come until Monday when we reopen. First shutdown in 5 years, though, not shutdown, pause for our new setup suppliers that are, I started a new charity. I bought sweetsurvivor.com. Right now it's not going anywhere, but it's going to bring my Sweet Survivor Rescue Fund, which SWEET stands for Survivors Will End Earth's Trafficking. And you can already donate at GoFundMe or Facebook pages by that name, the Sweet Survivor Rescue Fund. And I want to build this charity, so I got sweetsurvivor.com, and I've already got lindagifford.com, and if you buy my CD there or any song off of it, it's like 99 cents. Little Girl is a song that started really the first time I ever wrote about my own childhood sexual assault, and that was, I put it on the CD a long time ago. But it is available at lindagifford.com, sweetsurvivor.com. It's all coming together. I'm tangenting a little bit. Point being, before I knew how messed up I was, I couldn't do anything about it. We have to show people how messed up they are to do anything about it. To which someone said to me, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And you know what? It's broke. I'm telling you, it's broke. Pardon my sniffling. I have a cold. I have like a really bad cold. I took Theraflu, and my nose is still running and tingling, and I was sneezing, and I just thought, oh, it's allergies, you know. But now I'm like day 3 in, and it's, if Theraflu, severe cold and flu, isn't kicking its ass, then I've got a cold. Do you think I should get a COVID test? Maybe just, I've already had COVID. It almost killed me. Well, it didn't almost kill me, but without Western medicine for the pneumonia that I got right away, it would have. So, for statistical purposes, maybe I should see, just so we know, because I've been boosted. I've been double vaccinated and boosted, and I'll take the next one as soon as they offer it, and I suggest you do the same. Oh, this is the mug I was talking to you guys about. I showed you guys this mug, and it's my old store logo. We changed the name. And I said the other one was a nice mug that said, how are we supposed to treat others? And the answer, that was the question. And then A, the answer, there are no others. From Ramana Maharshi. Right? But I also did half of these that say, fuck what people think, on this side instead of this picture. And they were such a hit. I gave them to my kids and business associates for Christmas and close friends. So I'm making a run to sell to raise money for Sweet Survivor. And we're going to put the Sweet logo, one of like 3 Sweet logos, on the other side. So do look for the merchandise coming out. It's very important to me to get my Sweet Survivor Rescue Fund off the ground. I'm going to need you. I'm going to need you for that. So I'm asking you, I mean, this whole week has been about separating the past from the present, okay? So I'm not exactly tangenting, but I'm just making a point that the present, it's hard to separate the past from the present if we continue with archaic past ideas of what is and is not acceptable. And when we live in a world where a woman is forced into an unwanted pregnancy, right? But a boy who rapes someone, a man who rapes someone, gets off because, hey, we wouldn't want to ruin his life after all. You have to have that baby and raise it forever. But dude, we don't want to ruin your life. I mean, come on. Across society, you see it. You see it. So if you love somebody and want to fuck them, don't call them little girl or daddy. That's gross. Don't call a little girl sexy. My brother-in-law used to call me sexy, and that should have been a clue. But the thing is, even women, a lot of women who are totally on the bandwagon with everything I'm saying are still dressing their little daughters in clothes that are sexy, only little. And isn't that cute? And sexy clothes, clothes that would be inviting a sexual feeling, a sexual stimulation. And, that's specifically what I'm talking about. I'm not body shaming. I'm saying we dress sexy for a reason, but children don't understand the reason. But they're still sexy to some people who are taught that children are sex objects. And you see the cycle I'm saying? We teach men and boys that little girls are sex objects, and then we're mad at them when they treat them like sex objects. We're all responsible. We are all responsible. You, women, are responsible too. So, stop it. Become conscious. And that is, I just jumped ahead to the E in SPADES, educate and advocate. Technically this week, we're still on the P, separating the past from the present. So, I want to recap, like I do every day, the steps in separating the past from the present. The first thing we did was think about the neurological aspects, was break down why it happens so you understand that when a person is traumatized in such a way that it's easier to not think about it, at a young age, their brain literally does not form as many connections between the part of your brain that is receiving and the part that is storing memory. So what we want to do is, instead of repressing and stuffing down those memories when they occur to us, and they can turn into CPTSD, full-blown events, or they can just come as thoughts that you shove down. You shove it down long enough and it's going to explode like a coil that you've pushed through the ground, and you look calm, but you're not. And you're just going to go boing, right? And there's that CPTSD event. Well, you can stop these from happening or slow them down by starting to allow yourself the time and the space, the peaceful time and the space. If you need someone with you that you trust, do that. But allow yourself to remember what happened to you. And if this is especially hard for you, I recommend you get a trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy coach. I do it myself. I'm not a licensed therapist or anything like that. I'd be glad to help someone through it in a friendly, non-professional way. And that's why I talk about it on here. Writing your experience, drawing your experience, but at least allow yourself to think it. At least allow yourself to think it so that you can make a memory. The idea of thinking it instead of stuffing it down hurts. It hurts. It's painful at first. But if you take that thought and literally write what you're thinking, allow yourself to freeform. I didn't know what I was going to put to paper, and I ended up drawing a series of pictures of the abuse happening to me. And what it did for me was it helped me put into memory these events, because they came to me as jumbled flashes that caused CPTSD events until I did this trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's something simple that you can do at home that has measurable, permanent results. So if you take one subject at a time, don't bury it in your mind. Don't bury it in your heart and gut where it's physically going to kill you. Think about it, let it out, write it out, draw it out, at least think it out, and now make it a memory. So the next time that occurs to you and starts to trigger you, you can separate the past from the present by being conscious that you're being triggered and saying, oh, I'm being triggered. Just like when I said I had to be conscious about Oh, I don't have true intimacy because I've never opened myself physically and mentally and emotionally to anyone. Oh, I've never, you know, asked for what I wanted. That's actually the A in spades. Ask for, and that's all next week. Ask for what you want. Don't just take what's given. But I never did that. I learned to do these things, and each one of them was like unlocking a door to joy and happiness and satisfaction in life. And I'm still opening those doors. And so my spades has just worked so beautifully for me, and I'm so glad to see that it working for other people too, you know. But for the sake of I'm sick, I'm going to get going here today, and I will talk to you tomorrow for a recap. But a recap. I started off today by talking about Ketanji Jackson. Let me make sure on my little notes. This is like my show thing. Amount of material, guidelines, more serious if more bullshit. The changing medium. Oh, okay, we talked about that. Yeah, I don't care if you've got one piece of child porn or thousands. You're fucking perv. Okay, unless it's a research paper, because I actually did have to, if they did that, like, I once had to, I don't know if I had to, but I looked up porn, I looked up, like, South American, Central American women's violation and, you know, what women sell themselves for, what they have to do to survive. And that took me into some dark women with donkeys for money kind of websites, or one. I mean, I didn't keep going down that thing, but it was research. And if someone went off of just that, that could probably get me killed by my own standards. So definitely needs to be some discretion in, like, paper writing and research. But if a perv's a perv, the perv's a perv. I'm just saying. And surely I don't mean the death sentence. I was asked, yeah. If you willingly rape a child or an adult, you put your penis, you violate someone physically, I just want you gone. I just think you need to out of the gene pool, because people who are lack empathy to that degree, I just don't want them around. So if that makes me a bad person, I accept that. Anything else? I like to address questions. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. Just really gets to me. I'm going to be thinking about this for hours. Hearing Ketanji Jackson say, well, I can only give them a sentence that is greater than the minimum, but not more than is necessary for the purposes of punishment. And I'm like, if a person is attracted to children sexually, how do you punish that out of them? Just get them out of the gene pool. I suppose there are therapy for sex offenders, and I did see one TV show, One of the Good Doctors, where there was a guy who was actually, like, cutting off his own dick because of his, because he was upset himself about his obsession with children. So if you're obsessed with children, I hope there's a program that can help you, because I am your enemy. I am your enemy. To the rest of y'all, I'll see you tomorrow. I think it should be at 2 o'clock. I made it almost on time today, but look, I had to go to the doctor. I broke my foot, right? February 13th, I broke my foot. They didn't put me in a boot then. They gave me crutches. They said, be still and wrap it up. And I did. And I went 2 weeks ago. It took that long to get in to the orthopedist. And the x-ray then was worse than the initial break, although I didn't know that till today. Today I went back in 2 weeks later for the follow-up, and he's like, oh, it's not any better at all. And look, it's just like the last one, and they're both worse than when you broke it. So now I'm in the boot and immobilized, and I can't work for another month. And so I may be coming to you from the street pretty soon. If you want to give live gifts, now's the time. Now's the time. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Choose your words wisely, please. Okay? For all of our sakes. For your daughters, your sons, everybody's sakes.